Hey guys, and thanks for joining us for our inaugural NHL on I-80 Sports episode. I'm Bob, and you're watching I-80 Sports. So first things first, Tom, Brian, thank you guys for joining us today.
Not a problem.
So first up, I'll
happy to be here.
A bit of introductions here. Talk a little bit about yourself, your history with this sport. Basically, we just want to start with a main line. Why should we trust you? Why do you know more than anyone else about sports? Brian, your hockey experience, give it to us.
So just playing wise, I've been playing ice hockey for a long time now, about 10 years, as well as playing roller hockey. I'm well versed in strategy, and I know what to see in players on the ice in terms of what gives them the most success on teams and what teams excel at and what they do well with and why they might have shortcomings. Beyond that, I'm a diehard New Jersey Devils fan for life, but I have been an NHL and hockey fan for a very long time. I consider myself a non-biased NHL fan who enjoys watching games all around the league and have an appreciation for what all teams can do. And yes, that even includes the Rangers and Flyers.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Tom, what about you? What makes you the expert?
Well, I grew up in New Jersey my whole life, but I'm the opposite of Brian. I am a diehard Ranger fan. But when you grew up during the lean years, when all those great teams with Theo Fleury and Eric Lindros and Pavel Bure pretty much falling apart, with those teams being so bad for so long, during the playoffs, you would pop on and watch other teams. So you would watch the Detroits, the Colorados, basically just any game on in the playoffs, and you got to know those teams, how they played, what those players did, So it's almost like I had a neutral perspective growing up, pretty much because my team was no good. Other than that,
I watched everyone else.
Yeah, I didn't really have a choice. My team was just I don't know what they were doing back then, but thank God those days are over. But I grew up started out playing roller as a kid, 9 years old, made the transition to ice, around 11 or 12. I played travel, played high school. Was a pretty high level, A, B travel, a little bit of double A. I wasn't James Van Riemsdyk or anything like that. But I grew up playing. I knew the game. I grew up playing left wing lock. Every system. Neutral zone trap, 2-1-2 forecheck. The system. The games. You watch what certain guys do, and you're like, okay, now I know why they're doing this, as opposed to just watching the game go back and forth and just saying, oh, Ovechkin made a great move. Where I'm sitting there going, well, why is Ovechkin why is Ovechkin leaving his position to hit somebody? Well, he's leaving the rest of the ice open.
Absolutely. Now, I have a pretty strong basis in hockey, too, so I do know what I'm talking about. I played for years. I played all through middle school and high school, and so I do know the sport. However, I had a really bad injury back in, I guess that would be 2000. The strike year. What year was that? 2012?
05. Or was it which one? Because we had two of them. We had the one where we lost
2011, 2012, whatever.
Yeah, 2012.
So I had to quit playing, and the same year as the strike, I quit playing. You never get back into it. And once I stopped playing, I stopped watching, and now I'm lost. So I am going to be out of the way on this one. If you guys want to hear me talk, you can join our NFL channel anytime. It's all going to be loaded up on the same place. If you click any of the NFL or MLS videos, you can see me. I'm just going to stay out of the way and let you guys do your work. So let's get to it.
I guess first things first, we should talk about the restart format. Tom, what do you think is one of the most important things to keep in mind with this restart format?
Well, one of the most important things to keep in mind is that there is no home ice advantage with this. It's not like you're going into Boston Garden and the fan, or you're going into Madison Square Garden, you're going into Chicago, you're going into Nashville, which is a madhouse in the playoffs now, It's pretty much it's maybe as even of a playing field as maybe we've ever seen for these playoffs. And to top that off, everybody is healthy. It's not like you're coming in and you got a second liner hurt. Like, a couple of years back, the Rangers had Kreider hurt coming in the playoffs of 14. He didn't come back to the Pittsburgh series. Everybody's healthy, and there's no home ice advantage.
I hear those Rangers excuses coming out already now. For those who are not familiar with the format, I believe everyone is going to be doing an elimination, but before that, there's a round robin. I guess that's for the final seed. Like we basically have a 4-team East and West wild card round robin, and then we go right into the bracket. So for the East, we have the Flyers, Bruins, Capitals, and Lightning in the round robin. Do you guys have any thoughts on what teams are going to advance, if there's anyone there that really sticks out?
Well, the big thing to keep in mind with the round robin is the teams that are playing in this round robin format, it's to determine the top seeding of the playoffs. So there's definitely an advantage to try to win the top seeding. But for me, from the East, the biggest team to watch to win that top seeding is Boston. They're the stronger, more consistent team going into this playoff, stoppage or not. They're a well-oiled machine, and Tuukka Rask seems to be aging like fine wine. I give them the edge here. That, look for guys like Pasternak, Bergeron, and as much as I don't like the guy Brad Marchand to just come out of the gates early and really, put every team to work.
Wait, so let me correct myself for a second, just to make sure I got this right. These 4 teams in the round robin, those are the 4 best of the playoff teams, or the 4 worst of the playoff?
Correct.
Correct isn't an answer. Which one is it? Is it the best?
No, correct. It's the 4 best. I was before you said the 4 worst.
Gotcha.
No.
So let me stand corrected there. These are not wild card. These are top seeds, and then everyone else are the lower seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes, correct.
So let's make that correction right now. So round 1, the East. We have 4 matchups in the East. That is Maple Leafs versus Columbus Blue Jackets, Pittsburgh Penguins versus Canadiens, and Islanders versus Florida Panthers, and Carolina Hurricanes versus the Rangers. Who do we want to talk about first?
Well, I'll go first with this one. The Rangers and the Hurricanes, that'll be a decent matchup. The teams are pretty evenly matched here. The difference, maybe the main difference with this is, and maybe as a Ranger fan, I am going to root for them, but I think Carolina will win that series based on one factor only. The Rangers got the better goaltending, yes. Carolina's got injuries on D, so their D's pretty even. But what Carolina has, and I was looking at their depth chart today, they have a little more forward depth than what the Rangers do. Now, every Ranger fan in the world, you can ride home about Panarin and Zibanejad, and they're both great. Both great. And that first line with Zibanejad, with David Kreider, it's great. But if you go down Carolina, they have Svechnikov, Aho. Their third-line center is Vincent Trocheck, who is a great defensive center, great face-off guy. And unfortunately, I think that's what's going to put Carolina through. And if any of they had their core 6 defensemen before this were good. Now they're without Dougie Hamilton, they're without Brett Pesce, but I don't think that's going to be a limiting factor.
I especially think that is because the trades that they made leading up to the playoffs before the stoppage even happened. You have Brady Shea that also took on to that defense. You have Sammy Vatanen that they also acquired as well. So I think that's going to play a major factor, especially with Dougie Hamilton and Brett Pesce out. So it's not going to necessarily feel like a loss, but at the same time, they're going to really have a good defensive depth going into this playoffs, and it might even give them that edge.
All right, good stuff. Any other games here? Any other matchups for that first round East that we want to get into?
No, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, let's hit up the West now. 4 teams, I guess the 4 top teams: Blues, Avalanche, Stars, Golden Knights. What do we think is going to happen in this round robin?
So what I think is, in terms of that top seeding, I'm going to go out of left field here. A lot of people are going to pick either St. Louis or they're going to pick Colorado, and rightfully so. They're both very talented teams, but I'm going to go with a more exciting team in my mind with Vegas. I think it's tough to challenge Marc-Andre Fleury come playoff time, as he's proven time and time again. And with a potent offense led by Mark Stone and Max Pacioretty, they could go very far with that number 1 seed. So I'd be excited to see if they took that number 1 seeding.
I'm going to go with the flow on this one. I'm thinking Colorado is going to take that number 1 seed. There's just those guys are firing all cylinders. And remember, before the shutdown, they were all hurt. All their guys are back now. And with McKinnon being back, that's going to be a huge factor, especially because he hasn't played. So pretty much he's going to be getting himself back into shape for these games. That might be the worst thing for other teams, because if they're trying to take it easy and McKinnon's trying to get himself back into game shape, the guy is dominant. I watched him play, and I even watched the game before the shutdown when they were playing Buffalo. When Colorado is on, they don't give up the puck. They pressure you down low so much, and they don't give up the puck, and they don't give you any room to breathe. So I'm going to go with Colorado on that one.
All right, so those are the top two teams we have here. Now let's look at the rest of the West. This round one, there are four matchups: Calgary Flames versus Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers versus Chicago Blackhawks, Vancouver Canucks versus Minnesota Wild, and the Nashville Predators versus the Arizona Coyotes. What are we thinking here? All right, does anything jump out off the page to you?
So for me, I took down two potential matchups that I really liked out of here. One because of potential draft implications, and one just because I think it's such a tight matchup. I'll go with the tight matchup first. So Vancouver versus Minnesota. A lot of people would probably think Vancouver probably has the upper hand here. I don't see how they don't advance. Don't be surprised if Minnesota upsets Vancouver here. Minnesota had one player who, going into the stoppage and after the All-Star break, was one of the top point getters in the entire league, in Kevin Fiala. He had 23 goals, 31 assists for 54 points in just 64 games. Just to paint the picture there, his previous point total before that in his for career high was in 17-18 with 48 points in 80 games with Nashville. He was on pace for 70 points. The question will be, will he keep it up? For Minnesota, also, they now have a healthy blue line. We talk about how this format has really helped teams get healthy. All the more true for Minnesota. They got a healthy Matt Dumba back, and that is a big game changer for their blue line. That was already great before them, but headed up by Matt Dumba, it's a ton stronger. He's been MIA since the middle of December with a ruptured right pectoralis muscle, so having him back 100% is huge. And this is a blue line that already consists of, besides Matt Dumba, and Jared Spurgeon, Ryan Suter, Jonas Brodin, Brad Hunt, and they look strong. Some interesting notes for Vancouver, though. JT Miller was on a tear this year with 27 goals, 45 assists for 72 points in 69 games. Jacob Markstrom is in a contract year as well, and the question is he truly an elite goalie? He had a 918 save percentage this year, which is the highest for his career thus far. And then the other big question mark is, will Brock Besser step up in the face of trade rumors after it's been rumored that big part of the core for Vancouver could be shopped amongst the league, which is huge. The draft implications for Vancouver, if they lose this round, though, if they win the draft lottery, that first round pick that they dealt to Tampa Bay for JT Miller would revert back to them, which would also screw the New Jersey Devils because they acquired that earlier this year when they traded Blake Coleman to Tampa Bay. But for me, I think the winner is Minnesota in 4.
All right.
Okay. One that's really catching my eye is Chicago and Edmonton. Now, I'm going to take us back a little bit here, way back to 1981, and those great Oilers teams of the 80s, as sure as you remember, Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, all of them. One of the first obstacles they ever had was they had to go into a series in 1981 with the Montreal Canadiens, who at the time were still the kings of hockey. They still had Larry Robinson, Guy Lafleur, Guy Lapointe, Jacques Lemaire. And it's crazy as it is, this kind of is sort of the same thing. I mean, Edmonton had been there 3 years ago. Yes, we know that. But they're a little bit of a different team now. And you're going up against Chicago, who is sort of in that same role where you still have the stars of yesteryear. You still have Jonathan Taves. I don't even want to say yesteryear because Taves and Kane are still very good players, and they're still very much in their prime. And I'm thinking that's going to be intriguing. But the other side of it too is that it might be anti-playoff hockey. Playoff hockey usually is, grind it out, choke up on the sticks. Defensive hockey, I think this is going to be an offensive onslaught on both sides. I am going to give Edmonton a little bit of the edge. Corey Crawford has been questionable for Chicago over the past couple of years. I mean, Chicago still has some young players, but I really do think that if it's time for McDavid and Draisaitl to step up and to show what they can do in a big-time situation, this would be it right now. Sort of like that would happen in 81 with Gretzky and co. when they had to go up against the guys like Larry Robinson and the guys like Guy Lafleur. Sort of the same. It's sort of the same situation, as crazy as it sounds.
Absolutely. I'm really excited for hockey to get started because, man, we've just been starved for so long. Like we had it, then we had it taken away. So it's going to be very interesting to see over the next couple of weeks how this turns out. Is there anything else on the dock? Anything else on your mind for specific team matchups? Play anything going on this week?
Yeah, I got one actually. That Toronto-Columbus one is a little intriguing to me because you have two teams who are polar opposites. You have Toronto, very top heavy, very star laden. When they can put it together, they're a very good team. Then you have Columbus, lost their top center, top offensive threat, and they're starting goalie, but still managed to put it together this year. Now, if the season went to 82 games and none of this ever happened, Columbus may have never made the playoffs. But now you have them in there. Now, a lot of people would say, okay, well, since they swept Tampa last year, it's a no-brainer. Columbus is going to win. I'm not so sure about that. Toronto, the last 2 years, they fought 7-game wars against Boston. The thing last year people forget is even though Boston beat them in 7, they had Boston on the ropes last year. They had a chance to close them out at home, but they didn't do it. And I'm thinking this year, with them not having to play Boston, and as crazy as it sounds, I know I said no home ice advantage, but they sort of are home. It's their home ice. They may not have fans, but, those
Maybe
guys are familiar with their surroundings, So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that maybe this year they have it in their head that, okay, enough's enough. We're gonna get this done this year. We're not playing Boston. We're playing a team that on paper is lesser than us, and a team that, let's get it together. Let's go out there and beat these guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, that matchup on the docket between Toronto and Columbus is definitely going to be one to watch, because Columbus, though they may not have made the playoffs if we played an 82-game season, it's still going to be interesting to see, because they were upset queens last year. They could do it again. Toronto certainly does have a stronger core around them, especially led by Tavares and Marner and Matthews, and having Freddie Anderson in that also really, really helps. But wouldn't it just be poetic for Toronto to go down again and just all that, just Toronto burning? But, it might not happen. I think Toronto is probably going to easily smooth sail out. The other matchup that was interesting to me, because cynical Devils fan I am, is the Nashville Arizona matchup, only because the first round draft implications and all of the conditions that go around these picks, it makes your head spin. If Arizona loses, for instance, they could win the lottery, stealing the Devils' first round pick that they acquired in the Taylor Hall trade. But it gets crazier. If Arizona wins and manages to re-sign Taylor Hall, then instead of a third round pick for a conditional pick that the Devils would have gotten for next year, that becomes an unprotected first round pick that they get for next year. It's all crazy, convoluted, the draft implications that come through because of all this. And Arizona gets a second chance at life, because going into the stoppage, there was a real question of whether Arizona was actually going to make the playoffs. They were really faltering after that Taylor Hall trade. So they get a second chance at life here, and I'm really interested to see what they do with it, especially with Taylor Hall in the contract year. He's got a lot to prove. He was allegedly just lowballed a 5-year, $7 million offer. I don't know if there's any real truth behind that, but certainly with the young GM and John Chayka quitting abruptly, maybe the proof is in the pudding. I'm not necessarily sure, but it could be interesting for Arizona. And Nashville's a strong team too.
Absolutely. Now, these games are going to start on August 1st. That is this Saturday. It looks like the kickoff is Rangers Hurricanes at noon. How are you guys watching these games? What about it? What's the ticket? How are we getting as much hockey in our faces as we can?
Tom, I'll let you go first.
I mean, Saturday is like a holiday to me. I'm just going to be on the couch all day watching. Maybe the soccer fan in me will watch a little bit of FA Cup, but I'm just planning on going wall to wall. I even took Monday off from work to watch the Ranger game. So, if I have to go dual screen, which I do sometimes, where I have my TV and my laptop going at once, so I can watch 2 games at once. Although with this, that's probably not going to be a reality. It might just be a little bit of overlay if one goes to overtime, but still.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty good format. Games are going, looks like 5 or 6 games a day for the first couple of weeks, starting at noon. I see a noon, 2:30, 4, 6:30, 8, 10:30. Wow, this is some
it's NHL Christmas.
Yeah, it's almost like March Madness with the college basketball. It's sort of the same principle. And I've been doing it the last couple of days with the exhibition games. I watched every single game or part of every single game yesterday, and I loved it. I love the fact that I can come home. Let me adjust this. That I can come home from work in the middle of August, and and I can watch hockey's on, live hockey, not a game from this past spring, not a game from years ago.
We said when coronavirus started that there was going to be the golden month of August. MLS's back, Cup went off beautifully without a hitch. I know a lot of people who really wanted to see it fail, but looked real good. There were 2 teams eliminated for coronavirus cases, but everything else just went real smooth. Now basketball starting tonight. I hope you guys all got in your FanDuel picks, because do you see they were teasing up the Lakers game? Did you guys catch that?
No, I didn't catch that.
Oh, so
I didn't either.
if you guys are on FanDuel, there's a special going on. It's like the buy-in with a friend. They have some stupid name like let's play gamble together, like some weird thing like that. And for every 2,500 people who bet on the Lakers, they tease Lakers up another point. So right now you can get Lakers at minus 110. So you have to bet $110 to win 100. And they are teased up to 30 points. You can bet up to $50.
Wow.
So
That's not a bad promotion.
Wow.
They're basically giving you $50 free at this point because it's going to be like plus 44 at tip-off. Just a great way to get everyone involved. Cool. Great way to get everyone involved into betting on basketball again. But yeah, certainly August is going to be golden for sports. You got baseball if they keep playing. It's not looking great right now, but we have hockey. MLS is back. That tournament has been real. There's been some very good games, some really bad games. But it's just exciting time to be alive. I know coronavirus sucks, and I wish people stayed inside so we could, get over this together. But hey, there are benefits. There's a silver lining in every cloud, and it looks like for Tom, the NHL Summer Games is going to be a nice.
Yeah, well, and playing again, of course, getting back on the ice is nice too, which I did last night, and I'm going to do tonight because I'm out of my mind. I'm running on 5 hours of sleep, but
I get that. For me, I'm waiting until things get a little bit more clear because I've got a couple people at home that I care about that I don't want to necessarily take the disease home with. So I'm going to wait a little bit longer before I hop back onto the ice. But I'm excited for when that day finally happens. But until then, just playing catch with my brother and throwing a ball around is just good for me right now.
Absolutely, guys. Stay safe. Hopefully we'll be seeing you again soon. We know next week we're going to be coming back at you, and we have some special programming for our Shark. I can't call it that. Our Shark season. Copyright on the name, can't use it. Shark season episode. That's going to be next week in August. So hopefully you guys join us. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, hit the like and the bell icon so you get notifications when we post new videos. We're available on iedsports.com. You can find us on youtube.com/iedsports and every major podcast network. Guys, thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Not a problem. Thanks, Bob.
I80 Sports.